All right, Sandra, let's bring in Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House and a Fox News contributor. Speaker, I've been hoping to get you on for the last couple of weeks since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, because when you consider that, when you consider the attack against the ICE facility in Dallas on Wednesday, this flyer that William LaJeunesse was talking about from a 30,000-foot level, where are we as a nation and where are we headed?
Well, I mean, first of all, you'll notice that when they talk about violence, they don't go back and look at the summer of 2020 when buildings were being burned down, police stations were being burned down, people were being killed. Somehow that violence, which was clearly political, doesn't count in their listing. The left has a long history of violence. In the 1960s, the FBI reported 2,500 bombing attempts in the United States. And we sort of brushed all that off and forgotten about it. But there's a deep tradition in the left of people who hate American society, hate the concept of freedom, have all sorts of negative words to describe us, and feel that they are empowered to go out. The Democrats you quoted about Antifa. Antifa has been causing a nightmare in Portland for years, burning things down. To suggest that Antifa doesn't exist, I think requires living in a fantasy land.
You know, in the hours after Charlie Kirk's assassination, Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, said this. Listen to this statement here.
I absolutely believe that this is a watershed in American history, yes. The question is what kind of watershed? And that chapter remains to be written. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history?
What do you think about that? Charlie Kirk's assassination, it would seem to represent the latter and not the former.
Yeah, look, I think we have to recognize that we are in a genuine, legitimate cultural civil war. There are people on the left, largely big government socialists with weird values, who are sincere. I mean, they really do feel that with the rise of President Trump and the rise of MAGA and having Republicans in charge of the House, the Senate, and the executive branch, that their entire way of life is imperiled, because the world they wanted to create, the world that Barack Obama and Joe Biden was helping them create, was a world which had open borders, had no police or very weak police, had no bail, had criminals wandering around, had men in women's lockers, the whole route. Just think about all the different values that the left had accumulated over the last half century. And all of that is now being washed away by an American people. When you combine big government socialism and radical values, you're at about 20% maximum. There's a poll out today. Democrat Party favorability is down to 30%. Gallup last month had it down to 34%. And that's because that's the core. That they may eventually get down to about 20 based on work we do at America's New Majority Project. But those folks do feel genuinely that they're embattled. And I think we have to recognize this is not going to go away until the country makes a decisive decision.
So the White House, President Trump, and the DOJ want to look into the funding behind these protest groups. The DOJ has instructed a half a dozen U.S. attorneys' offices to look into where the funding flows down from. And in terms of that ICE detention facility protest in Portland, Oregon, here's what J.D. Vance said about it the other day. Listen here.
I believe it was in Oregon where you had a federal building where there were men in black ski masks who were committing acts of violence, who were shutting down a government building. To the president's point, they don't come from nowhere. These are paid people. This is organized. They're committing acts of political terrorism on American soil.
We know that people are paid to protest. There's a group out of D.C. called Crowds on Demand that says its phone is ringing off the hook. So that is a no-brainer. But are people also being paid by other organizations to engage in violent protests, do you believe?
Oh, I think that there are people who subsidize groups who are basically advocating violence. And I think you're going to find, by the reports we see in public, you may well find that Soros's foundation is behind a great deal of this. But clearly, if you're going to go after this kind of terrorism and this kind of intense commitment to violence, you have to look at two places. You have to look at the money, and you have to look at the internet. I think we're going to discover that there are entire layers on the internet that are being used for the purpose of radicalizing people moving them towards violence, convincing them that they have a mission to go out and kill somebody. And I think we have to see all of this as a pattern, not just a series of individual stories, but a pattern of violence across the nation, largely motivated by a handful of people, many of them very wealthy, who want a radically different America and know that they're not going to get it in an open, free debate.
Frightening situation. Mr. Speaker, as always, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.